We live in a world of sound bites, talking heads on TV, internet memes, and Facebook and Twitter updates. These little bits of information are all well and good, but there's a general consensus out there that sound bites are really not that helpful for understanding the whole story of what's being talked about. Looking at just one or two pieces of a puzzle is not going to give you a picture of what the finished product will be, right? So why do we use the Bible this way? The first angle on fleshing out our understanding is content, that is, understanding what the text says. The second angle is all about context, which is interpreting what the text means. If we truly want to understand a text, we need to slow down and not jump to conclusions about what it means. Looking at the context, that is, seeing how this passage, verse, chapter, or book of the Bible fits into the other parts of the Bible, will lay the tracks for a more informed interpretation of what the thing means. Given that knowing the content and the context of the entirety of the Bible is something that is continually uncovered, there are a few tools to interpreting meaning from context. The first tool is just knowing the Bible. Get to know the stories and books and how they fit together. Each story from the Old or New Testament gives another piece in the puzzle of the overarching story of Scripture, and you'll be amazed at how the themes of different characters and books and stories build the context of the other pieces of Scripture. So, if you grew up learning these stories, go back and keep rereading them. If you didn't, grab a children's Bible and go to town. A second tool is taking Jesus' words seriously when he said that all Scripture points to him. Though we use a book, Christianity is not really about a book. It's about what Jesus has done and who Jesus is. But being able to see Jesus at the center of Scripture, both in the Old and New Testaments, will put an overall context of Scripture into perspective. Most importantly, it's about seeing that God's people have always been counted righteous through faith in God's promises. A third tool of note is using the apparatus of the cross-reference inserted into many study Bibles. These can usually be found in the center column of any page. These are like the word study, in that cross-references direct you elsewhere in Scripture, but where word studies are about vocabulary, cross-references connect you to other sections or passages that have a common theme. This helps to weave the context of Scripture together to help you interpret meaning as the big themes run throughout the text. And, as in understanding content, study notes can be useful for interpreting meaning in the context. Be extra careful, though, in interpreting meaning of events, to not rely on the interpretation of the editors or the study notes to the point where you actually don't look at the evidence right in front of your face. The last stop on the train of context is our understanding's self-evaluation. Just like on how we evaluate our grasp on content by measuring how well we can explain what the text says, we evaluate how our grasp of context is by measuring how well we can interpret what the text means. On the high end is a profound interpretation, richly connecting different elements and themes to see deeply into the meaning of the text in question and the Scripture as a whole. On the other end of the spectrum is a purely literal translation, where you simply tack meaning on without any thought or consideration of what the text means in relation to the text around it or the big themes in Scripture. Different levels of perception fit in the middle. So there you go. Understanding content and context are the double-barreled shotgun of precise study of the text. Interpreting what the text means takes time and requires examination of the content, but it provides the foundation for all further understandings of the confessions of the faith and gives credence to thoughtful conversation. In other words, interpretation provides the foundation for understanding.